I'm Charlie, and I'm a farmer. I live on a small homestead with 3 donkeys, some cats, and a few chickens, and together we grow food and try to live a quiet life. I use the sun, the soil, and the rain, and avoid outside inputs as much as possible. Food and life must flow from the farm. I don't use a tractor or any petroleum-powered device for growing food on my homestead. It's just me and the donkeys, Rosie, Cassie, and Sebastian. The donkeys are small, but they have big hearts. My farm is called Anarchy Acres, and the 3 donkeys together are known as Team Anarchy. The farm business is growing heritage red wheat. Last year, I grew 10 different kinds of wheat, nearly all forgotten varieties from the 19th century or earlier. The wheat is beautiful, tastes great, and it's possibly healthier than modern wheat. I'm passionate about history, and I love discovering secrets from the past. But make no mistake, I grow wheat so that I can make pizza. I live on a farm because it's beautiful and healthy, and I think that makes the world a better place. I do a lot of different things here on the farm, things I can't always explain. But it's actually pretty simple. I'm here for the pizza. I grow most of my wheat on a rented field, about a mile from the homestead. Here I can work on a larger scale, big enough for business. I've made a deal with myself. I can use a tractor and modern machines for my business. But on the homestead, all food production must be animal or human powered. It's a balance between the practical and the ideal. No matter how you farm, things still have to be maintained and taken care of. Come on in, sweetie. Cassandra. Sebastian. Come on in, sweetie. Sometimes, spring is just the season of mud. I really want to plant, but it's got to be a lot drier than this. Anyhow, it's late March, and I'm sure it will dry up soon. Spring can turn back into winter, sometimes more than once in a season. Fortunately, snow melts quickly. In between the snow and the mud, I take care of other spring rituals.
.37 degrees now in Milwaukee, 32 in Waukesha, and 37 in Racine. Dry and seasonal.
Better chances of rain move in for Sunday with widespread rain, possibly a few rumbles of thunder throughout the day. Now by the time we get into Monday, we see colder air
Start off Wednesday with a wintry mix, turning to rain by the afternoon. Highs tomorrow in the upper 40s.
Some light rain and maybe a few rumbles of thunder will continue on and off this morning before we see a brief lull in the action later this morning. Right now it's 41 degrees here in Milwaukee, it's 37 over in Waukesha, and it's 43 down in Kenosha. This afternoon and into the evening, a cold front will arrive, bringing the chance for some stronger thunderstorms. These storms have the potential to produce large hail, frequent lightning, and gusty winds. Storm chances die down later tonight as rain continues into Sunday. From the Innovative Weather Center, here at UW Milwaukee, I'm meteorologist Hannah Lisney.
The cycle of fertility is important on all farms. Eventually, everything goes into the compost. In these piles are manure and used bedding, kitchen scraps and corn stalks, as well as some chickens that were killed by a fox, and also the fox. Cassie? Okay. By the second week of April, it was finally dry enough to start plowing and working the soil. I got my interest in wheat from my interest in bread and pizza. I've been baking forever, always striving for something different or special. And I learned about traditional wheat, the kind of wheat that has changed very little over the centuries. I wanted it for my pizza. I went to the archives at the University of Wisconsin and learned what I could. Many of the old wheats are gone, but a few have been preserved in seed banks. When I can get my hand on a sample, I plant that seed and grow it out. It takes patience and a little luck. This year I received a rare wheat called Dixon, last grown in the 1920s. I have just 100 seeds. With care, after 4 or 5 years of harvesting and replanting, there will be enough to make a pizza. On the rental field, I'll plant wheat from previous harvests. Every year I save enough wheat for next year's planting to keep the cycle going. Down at the rental field, the soil needs a little more work before the seed can go in. Planting wheat is pretty simple. Keep the hopper filled with seed and try to drive in a straight line. Like a lot of things, the preparation was more important than the actual doing. We're in the last week of April now, which is late in the season. Every day lost to bad weather means a later start for the plants, and probably a smaller yield. That's just the nature of farming. There are 3 smaller research plots on the big rental field, which are all planted by hand. These are archival wheats, which I started growing out 3 or 4 years ago. After all the seed is in the ground, I go over the field lightly to help cover and press the seed into the soil. It rained hard several times in a row after the spring planting. I mostly stayed inside and made pancakes. We got at least 4 inches in the week following planting, about 3 inches more than was needed. Once the pastures at home dried up, I could finally let the donkeys out and enjoy some spring grass. It's always a great time for the team. Wheat is also a grass with a large edible seed head. Humans gather the seeds inside these heads and grind them into flour. Wheat is the result of ancient grasses and farmers interacting over a long period of time. Every growing season puts pressure on the plant and it changes over time. There's a lot of science and so forth, but the important thing is, once you have wheat, you can have pizza. The first wheat to germinate was the Dixon wheat. This is the test plot on the homestead. On the rental field, germination took a lot longer. I checked the field daily and didn't see anything. Wheat is normally up in 5 days. This year, the rain and the cold delayed germination. But after 15 days, it was finally there. I bought some chicks to replace the farm's losses. In about 6 months' time, they'll be big enough to start laying eggs. This is also the week I learned that the rental field had been sold. The new owners want to build a house on it. I've been here for 3 years now, and it's taken all of that time just to get the soil healthy. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I hope I can keep growing crops here. Wheat is where flour comes from. I mill a couple 100 pounds of flour every week. When something breaks, you fix it. The more things I break, the better I get at fixing things. By the middle of May, finally, it started to look like spring around here. I would not want to make pizza without garlic. Actually, I put garlic on just about everything I eat. Anytime the grass is tall and the forecast is clear, I'm usually cutting grass somewhere. The grass will be dried and stored as hay. It's a bit of a puzzle that the mythical figure of death is often pictured with a scythe. On my homestead, the scythe actually gives life by helping me gather grass and save it for winter feed. It's part of the cycle of life on a small homestead. By late May, the spring wheat had still not grown very much. Cold, wet weather is always hard on spring wheat. The weeds get established, and they're sure to be a problem later on. The winter wheat, having established its roots last year, is growing strong and crowding out the weeds. A Russian variety called Krimka is already forming seed heads. Once the grass is dry enough to be stacked, Sebastian and I go gather it up. The donkeys get nearly all of their food from the homestead. Haystacks are an old but effective way of storing the summer's bounty for wintertime. It's a lot of work, but it keeps us out of trouble. And I also think it's beautiful. nobody really understands how a baler works.
The importance of proper twine finger setting cannot be overemphasized, since a large percentage of all tying failures is due to their misadjustment. To adjust the twine fingers, proceed as follows. Check the needle setting and make sure that the needles are properly adjusted as outlined on page 14. Trip the knotters and manually turn the flywheel counterclockwise until the tips of the twine fingers begin to pass the needles. The twine fingers should clear the needles by not more than 1/16 of an inch, point A, figure 23. Secure proper twine finger clearance by loosening the twine finger mounting bolts and moving them forward or backward in the slots in which they are installed. Now,
Brother. Once the baler was up and running, it was time to go make some hay on the rental field. Making hay is the same, regardless of what equipment you use. The hay is cut and left to dry in the sun. It's usually raked once or twice to help the hay dry. Dixon wheat on the homestead is a nice surprise. It's forming heads very early for a spring wheat. I'm intrigued, but it'll take years before I know exactly what we've got. Like most plants, wheat forms a flower as part of its life cycle. Each developing grain has an even smaller flower attached to it. Pollen must get to each flower in order for the wheat berry to develop. We had a peculiar early drought this season. After the heavy rains in May, it just went dry. There was no rain during head formation or flowering, and I don't like it. The spring varieties on the field are well established and looking good. Winter varieties look even better, and they are holding out well against the weeds. Overall, the field looks really good for early June. A lot of farming is waiting. In the winter, you wait for summer. Once it's summer, you wait for rain. You wait for it to stop raining, or you wait for something else. Waiting can be unsettling. Why am I doing this, and where is this going? I'm gonna sell the farm, move into a condominium, and get my pizza delivered. Like a normal person. I wish harvest time would hurry up and get here. Between the rental field and the homestead, I grew a lot of different wheat this year. Dixon, Red Fife, Marquis, Java, Haynes Bluestem, Krimka, Gold Coin, Red May, Early Noi, Wisconsin Pedigree No. 2, and Early Red Fife. I'm searching through history to find some great wheat. Wheat for now, for people to grow and consume. I'm going to keep searching. It's fascinating, it tastes great, and it's beautiful. By early July, the first wheat varieties are finally ready for harvest. The small research plots will be cut by hand and threshed later. It's showtime. I can't grow raspberries worth a darn. Fortunately, wild blackberries are very reliable on the homestead. Sometimes you leave something alone and it does its thing. Bad news, a local deer ate nearly all of the Dixon wheat. I saved just 4 heads. Threshing is what you do to remove the seeds from the head of wheat. You can thresh with your bare hands, with a flail, or with a machine. I use all of these methods. The flail is good for working out my frustrations about losing the Dixon. No matter how you thresh, the goal is the same. Clean, separated wheat. On bigger plots, the combine will harvest and thresh all in one pass. When everything works, running a combine is just a joy. I'll be watching this grain closely until it's dry enough for long-term storage. For some of the smaller quantities, I'll use the combine as a stationary threshing machine. At the end of July, the marquee wheat was ready for harvest. The field looked thin, more weeds than wheat. Most of the harvest will have to be used as seed for next year, with little left over to sell. I sure hope the red fife does better. I harvested 10 different kinds of wheat this season, all historic Wisconsin varieties. Many are still in the early years of being grown out from small archival samples. It's a lot of work taking a handful of wheat and turning it into acres. And I won't know for years if this historic wheat is suitable for my climate or the conditions here. But if it makes good pizza, the wheat is worth the wait. I spend a lot of time in August monitoring the grain until it's dry enough for safe storage. I've never known a farmer who was really in a good mood by the time August rolls around. Even if it's been a good season, farmers are just tired by now. In my case, the season has just not gone well. The rental field for a third straight year has been unproductive, below expectations, and not economically sustainable. And on top of that, the field has a new owner. Although I can still farm there, a house is going up right on the soil I was preparing for next season. I've done a lot of work for nothing, and I'll need to rent additional growing space somewhere else. I'm feeling a little beat up. By now, all of the small plots of wheat have either been threshed or they've been bundled and are waiting in the shed to be threshed later on. The red fife wheat finally came off in the second week of August. The weeds took over this planting, and the yield was just one notch above disaster. What a disappointment. In addition to affecting the yield, weeds also put a lot of moisture into the grain. It's going to take a lot of babysitting to get the red fife dry enough for safe storage. The last step is to clean and bag all of the wheat. The garden did well this year. The tomatoes and peppers both look great. And the popcorn is the best I've had in 3 seasons. Both the farmer and the donkeys eat a lot of popcorn. I love honey and I can't function without it. Although I'm not a great beekeeper, I harvest at least 100 pounds of honey every year. The last act in the wheat harvest is removing the straw. My little old baler ran perfectly this year. Always make a pizza with confidence. Don't let anyone know that maybe you don't know what you're doing. Make the crust thick or thin as you like it, and be sparing with the toppings. Really, that's all you need to know. A good pizza doesn't have much to do with how you prepare it or bake it. The magic is where the ingredients came from and how they got there. The decisions and hard work, the place and the time. Use what you have and accept your limitations. Pizza is just one moment in a field that is forever changing. Soak in the moment, let it consume you, and then let it go.
So how did your pizza turn out? Maybe it was amazing. Maybe it wasn't exactly what you expected. No matter what, don't apologize. It's yours. Eat the pizza, share it with others, and then go make another one. I am always looking forward to my next pizza.